Hi, Nick here. Welcome back to the Lunar Awakening channel, where I hope to be a guiding compass towards spiritual enlightenment for others who are going on their own journey. In this video, I'm going to talk about self-love and what this means when we're interacting with others and how it might play out if we don't love ourselves. Because love is the feeling state that we want to be in if we want to have the best life, the most joyful life. And when we're not operating from a perspective or position of love, then in my view, we're operating from fear. And this then leads to certain behaviours and patterns that aren't in our best interest. They don't serve us, and they certainly don't serve the people around us. So I want to give some ideas on how we can start to recognise whether we do love ourselves, and then how we might be able to start cultivating some self-love. So love is like a sense of being, a feeling state. When we love something, we adore it, we have admiration for it, we want to be kind to it, we want to show compassion. So these are all brilliant qualities to want to project into something, a situation or another person. But often what we don't realise is that we're not looking after ourselves in that same way. Do we show compassion for self? Do we allow ourselves the opportunity to mess up? Are we kind to ourselves? When we get things wrong, how do we talk to ourselves? And if we adore ourselves, then we're going to obviously do nice acts for ourselves. We're going to look after ourselves, we're going to look after our body, we're going to look after our mind, we're going to assert our boundaries. We're going to be an individual, and we're not going to be afraid to be that individual because we love that individual. And often what we do is we try and validate our own existence by checking that everyone else loves us. And that's a pretty dangerous position to be in for long-term happiness, because if the people that we're relying on to love us, whether that be parents, whether that be a partner, whether that be friends, if those people leave our life for whatever reason, there's loads of reasons why people, stop talking, or someone passes away. Things can happen. Someone might move away to another country that mean that relationship is no longer the same as what it was. And if we were relying on that relationship to validate our own sense of self-worth and our own sense of value, and that relationship leaves us, then what position does that put us in? We're then obviously not in a very good place mentally, emotionally, and it can lead to sort of quite fear-driven survival responses kicking in. And this might be, from the patterns that we learn as a child. Maybe our parents didn't love themselves and they weren't able to show us or teach us how to love ourselves. So we witnessed behaviours that they acted out to prove love to others. So that could be, buying each other material objects, or taking someone to nice places all the time, or it could be the words that are spoken, saying nice things. In all of these instances, it's beautiful, it's lovely, it's a way of, demonstrating love to one another. But again, it goes back to that same point as to when you're relying on these external objects to validate the love, then if those objects, they don't exist anymore, or you're not able to afford them anymore, or you run out of the energy to provide that method of demonstrating love, then what are we left with? We're left with fear. And when we kick into those survival strategies, that's when we're at risk of being manipulative. Because, even buying things for someone is, with the hope that demonstrates love to them, is in a way a sort of mild manipulation, because you're not trusting that you are loved, and you're not trusting that person loves you just as you are. Because if you're having to rely on these external things to either prove love, demonstrate love, or receive love, then in all of this, it's like a contract. It's like, I'll do this thing for you and you do that thing for me, and that proves we love each other. Whereas love is just is. It shouldn't be something that we need to prove to one another. It shouldn't be something that needs to be demonstrated. We should just be able to feel it. Like when you start to cultivate more self-love, and when you start to realize these contracts that we've, signed up to with other people to prove love to one another. Like if I text you, then that shows you that I love you. And if you text me back, I now know that you love me too. And if you don't text me, then I'm going to be pissed off with you for the rest of the day because now I don't think that you love me. But if we just believe and know in our hearts that we love each other and we're there for one another, then all of those contracts and all of those survival strategies and mechanisms are just going to fall away. We're just going to feel so much more grounded, secure, settled, happy. We're going to live from a much better perspective. And when we have self-love, then we're not scared of losing the love from another because we know that we are love ourselves. So we don't need to buy into any contracts. We don't need to expend energy in that field, in that mind space. And we can still do nice things for one another, but we do them from that perspective of love. So we start doing things for each other from a more genuine, from a more heartfelt, centered approach. And it's going to feel better because we're feeling creatures, we're intuitive. You know when someone's trying to con you, right? You know when that cheesy salesman comes up to you and tells you this is the best price on a car that you're ever going to get today. And you look at him and you're like, BS, mate. You just know. And you say, no, this doesn't feel right. And you might still go through with that contract because maybe you had like poor boundaries instilled in you and you didn't want to upset other people. So you still go through with the contract, but you feel rough, like it just feels wrong. And you're like, you want to get home and get in a shower and be like, I want to wash this off me, this feeling state. And when you operate from love, it just feels warm, it just feels genuine, it just feels nurtured and caring. And when we operate from love, then we're more likely to find and meet and connect with people who are on the same journey as us. So as we start to love ourselves more, we start to, because we're loving ourselves more, we want more for ourselves, we want better for ourselves. And this is not in a selfish sort of way, but we might suddenly look at the surroundings that we've put ourselves in and we might start to then feel inspired to see how we can improve that, like maybe improving the job that you're in, or working on improving the friendships that you have in your life so that it's not so contract driven and it's more based on that mutual understanding, love and respect. And then your whole life just gets better as you learn to love yourself more. So the benefits are endless and it costs absolutely nothing to start loving yourself. And a good way to test whether you do or you don't love yourself is to think about how you treat yourself, because we can trick ourselves and intellectually say, well, of course I love myself. What a ridiculous notion. You're telling me I don't love myself. Well, that's not right. But then look at your actions. Like look at the people that you keep company, or look at how you treat your body, or look at what you say to yourself inside your mind. Are these actions and words and deeds, are they treating you with that kindness and that compassion and that love and self-care? Or are you behaving in a way that is damaging to your health, damaging to your mental health? And are you putting yourselves in situations where you're either lonely, or you're with the wrong people, or you're not sure? Like you don't even know, you've not even asked yourself if you're happy. You're just going along with it because again, there's that underlying fear. Well, if not this, then what? Like if not these people, then who do I socialize with? Then there's that underlying fear. So are you keeping that friendship in your life for love, or are you keeping in it just for like this mutual contract that so long as we have each other, we won't be lonely? But it doesn't matter whether we're happy in this relationship or in this friendship, we'll just go along with it because that's all we have right now. So it's good enough for now. And then, that disingenuous feeling starts cropping up again, but we push it down because we don't want to face the feeling. And the feeling, that's going to be like some, in my experience, like obviously everyone's got their own situations, and my experience is that bubbling feeling of not feeling good enough, not feeling worthy, that comes from childhood. That comes from childhood conditioning. That comes from how you were spoken to, or the beliefs that you developed from the experiences that you had growing up. And so we don't want to deal with that pain from the childhood because we pushed it down at childhood because it didn't feel nice then, and it's definitely not feeling nice now. So we'll just do what we always did. We'll just push it down and we won't look at it. We'll pretend it's not even there. So what we do is we then try and distract ourselves with these toxic traits, like for me, drinking too much, or, you know, even just like having like extreme sports and needing that adrenaline rush all the time could be a way of distracting your mind from, you know, being in your present body. And I think that's one of the best ways you know if you love yourself, is that you can just sit and you can just be, you know, on your sofa at home, and you don't fret. You're not panicked. You're not anxious. You're not worried. You're not projecting your mind into a different space, be it the past or the future. You're just sat in that present moment and you're just calm. That is the best like test you could ever have to know if you're comfortable in your own skin and if you love yourself. And then, yeah, observe your behaviors. Like, what are you doing on a day-to-day basis? Do you get up early? Do you go for a run? Do you eat good food? Do you take care of yourself? Have you got addictions? If you've got addictive behaviors, then that's a sign of like flight. That's a flight response. That's running away from something. So what are you running away from? Are you running away from yourself? It's a question, isn't it? Are we running away from ourselves? Because when we're grounded, when we're settled, when we love ourselves, we don't need to run away from ourselves. We're just happy as we are. We can just be. You know, we're beings. We can just be in ourselves and happy. And I will say, like, the grounding work that I've done and the loving self work that I've done has been some of the hardest work ever, because to get back into the body and to find that center of love, that takes some work when we've been running away from it for, you know, however old we are at the point that we're watching this video. That's a really hard thing to, like, behavioral patterns and reactions and responses to life. That's really a really big one to reprogram, and it's totally possible to reprogram your mind. Like, that's the brilliant thing about all of this, is that as soon as we recognize and we can awaken the awareness to our situation, to the real situation, not the illusion that we love ourselves and we're in a loving relationship and we have loving friendships and we have, you know, a great job. When we wake up to the illusion that maybe things aren't quite where I'd like them to be, wow, now we can change something. Because we've been honest with ourselves, because we've looked at the situation from a new perspective. And that new perspective has given us that little bit of space that we needed to say, right, now we can change this. I mean, we have to have the courage to look, and then we have to be willing to change. So it requires two lots of effort. And obviously within that as well, we need to understand in what direction it needs to change in order for it to be better for us. But these are all entirely possible scenarios. We just have to be willing. So, like, cultivating self-love is just having that really honest internal look at self and say, you know, what do I love about myself? And, you know, I did loads of meditation on this, and I would just try and send love to myself. And often, I mean, pretty much every time, I'd end up in floods of tears because I was just releasing so much of the negative conditioning that I'd grown up with around the fact that I'm not worthy, that I'm not lovable, the fact that, you know, I don't belong in this world. And all these thoughts had been like, that's what my small mind had come up with from the events that happened in my childhood. That's what my mind had summarized as my core beliefs. And so trying to unpick that and trying to work through all of those was a mountain, but what a mountain to climb. And when you get to the top, the view is truly beautiful. And then you start looking at this life that much higher up. We're like way up in the clouds now. And we see so much more opportunity because we're seeing the whole landscape and we're not just seeing the trees that are right in front of us. You know, if we're stuck in the woods and we're stuck scrambling around in the dark, we don't get that perspective. We don't get the breadth of opportunity that's now open to us. So yeah, meditate on it. Just ask yourself, like, say, I love myself, and see what emotions come up. See what feelings arise in your body. And that's a really good a really good indication of how you feel about yourself. Notice what behaviours you have on a day-to-day basis. Are they loving behaviours? Do you talk to yourself like you would talk to your friend? Do you look after your body as you should, like through sleeping enough, exercising enough, eating good food, drinking lots of water? Are you distracting yourself by using television or addictions or, playing computer games? It could be anything. Are you distracting yourself so you don't have to be with yourself? Even just like going out and socializing all the time is like you're running away from yourself. This is my experience, I'm talking from my own experiences here. But I'm hoping that might help, just awaken new understandings to what might be going on in your own life. And, I'd love to hear if any of this resonated with you, if I've said anything that sort of made you think, yeah, that's a nail being hit on the head there, then let me know. I'd love to hear from you. You can post, send me a message on Instagram. You can obviously comment on this video. And I've also got my own blog, so check that out at Lunar Awakening. I should have the website in my bio on the YouTube page. So if any of this resonated, check in with me, and I'll see you again on a video soon. Take care.